Hello, and welcome back to the Amateur Gardener Series 3. Recently I visited Green Wheel Farms, run by Max Valyear. Max is a sustainable urban farmer who farms right here in the city of Belleville. He produces vegetables for community-supported agriculture, the market, and local chefs and caterers. Max is a wealth of information about sustainable farming using the French intensive method. The Belleville Library is pleased to present Max Valyear of Green Wheel Farms.
Since 2014, I did a proposal with the city.
Yeah.
They were starting the downtown revitalization project.
Yeah.
And Jason Miller had written an article, and at the very bottom of the article, there was a sentence in a paragraph that was a quote from the city saying, "We understand we have underutilized spaces and are looking for suggestions."
Okay.
So I had originally did a proposal to use vacant lots that the city owns to do this type of thing, and create an education center for school kids to come to and take part in. So that was Neil Ellis, our mayor at the time. He was like, "Absolutely, we've got to get this going on." This is geared to become an education center.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, so kids will be able to come here and they'll take a couple of schools. Well, with Sir James Whitney, quite a bit.
Okay.
We've created a learning garden there for the kindergarten class.
Oh,
So
very
same
cool.
idea. They'll come here, they'll do everything involved with food, growing it, and then they'll take it into sort of a school setup, and there'll be like a home economics kitchen and a little science lab, and just a school setup, but it'll no longer be a residence. It'll just be geared towards education.
Oh, that's awesome.
And at that point, it'll become not-for-profit. So yeah, since 2014, I've been doing this, and then I've got satellite plots. So just within a 5-block radius of here,
Okay.
I'm using this yard and other people's yards, and have just under a quarter acre of land that I farm on through the season.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right here in the city.
Right here in the city. And this is sort of a poor example of how I do it, because this is geared towards my CSA, which is community supported agriculture.
Okay.
So members in the community prepay in the winter months for food all summer long.
Okay.
So this is planted in a way that allows me to get the 40 different crops all going and utilizing, because I don't have much space.
Okay.
So I have to utilize the space. So in here, as an example, this had 5 rows of radishes in it.
Okay.
So that's a radish bed right there.
Okay.
It looked very much like that.
Okay.
But in between the rows, I put transplants of celery.
Oh, very good.
And I had bok choy down here transplanted in.
Yes.
But the weather has been insane this spring.
Yes.
And it caused it to bolt. The day that I pulled it out was a beautiful day to grow bok choy.
Yeah.
But it already flowered, and it was beyond
Yeah.
any use. So here I will, and then I can show you an example of what I just described.
Okay.
But I will interplant the beds
Okay.
sometimes with 3 different things
Very
to
cool.
utilize the space. The interplanting, as an example,
Okay.
these taller ones are radishes. Okay, there's
Okay.
5 rows of radishes.
Okay.
But if you look in between,
There's
there's lettuce
lettuce.
growing there. So
Very good.
I'll be harvesting most of it this week.
Wow.
And I have it broken into 10-foot beds. So
Okay.
that's 10 feet, this is 10 feet. And then those are 30-foot beds. So I've got
Okay.
3 10-foot sections. So I'll clean out a 10-foot section in the CSA.
Yeah.
And that'll open up this whole front end of the bed for the lettuce. And then all that'll be growing in there is lettuce. And as it gets almost ready, you know, a couple of weeks before it's ready,
Yeah.
I will go through and hand seed, or if I can still get my precision seeder through.
Okay.
But normally what I do, over here, for example, that green garage, on the other side of it, I've got a plot as big as this.
Okay.
And all of the crops that go in there are 40 to 60 days maturity, and then they're out, and I replant the bed. So that allows me 4 to 6 times in a season.
Wow.
Radishes midsummer, they take like 28 days, 21 days sometimes.
Wow.
Arugula is within 21 days, I can get a couple of harvests, but then it goes to flower. But it's like 3 weeks, and I get per linear foot, I get 1 pound of arugula.
Wow.
So it generates a lot very quickly. Like I've got a 20-foot bed there with either 5 or 7 rows. I think it was 5 rows.
Yeah.
So that's like 100 feet of arugula that I harvest. In the other beds, it'd be like in goes the arugula. 45 days later, it's out of there, and then midsummer, it's out of there within the month, and I've replanted. And that allows me to also build the soil. So by having short season crops, when I pull a green out, I'll plant a root vegetable. And each will provide nutrients for the next thing. So I start with greens at the beginning of the season because they're very light feeders.
Yes.
They don't pull much out of the soil.
So
then I can put something in like a radish, or example, these Hackeri turnips. They take midsummer, they're like 21 days as well. These will all be coming out and going on the stand this weekend too. So like there's several root vegetables that are 3 weeks in and out. And harvested and sold. So this is geared towards members who have purchased through the winter to have me grow their food for the summer. And I interplant a lot. But the other beds, my market gardens, it's strictly crop goes in, crop comes out, crop goes in, crop comes out. So the market gardens are strictly, everything is under 60 days at the very maximum. And if it's a green, I can harvest it 2 or 3 times. So I get multiple harvests. And if it's a root vegetable, it's very short season. Even my beets. So these are beets over here, the very red leaf ones. And I put them in as a transplant. So a beet's maturity is 50 to 60 days. But they go in as transplants, and they're already 30 days old. So it's only another month to maybe 6 weeks at the very most, depending on how long it takes them to establish. And so all of my root vegetables are all, you know, at the very most 35, 40 days. And then greens go back in. And it allows a huge rotation multiple times through the season. So that's the way I farm, and everything is standardized. They're all 30-inch wide beds, and they vary in length from 10 to, I've got 40-foot beds over on Boswell Street. So that allows me to utilize every bit of space, because every plant needs a certain amount of space to grow. And as long as I allow it, these become a canopy. The vegetable becomes a canopy. And that prevents weed pressure in the beds. There's always weed pressure in the aisleways. But it's quick fix. You know, I've got tools that I've got a stirrup hoe that just allows me to rip through this thing here. And it's literally as easy as just. So I'm gonna get started over here. And it's.
Oh wow. That is easy.
And as I do this repeatedly, like it's the beginning of the season. So as I do this repeatedly every week, eventually the weeds that are growing up in there have been exhausted from trying to regrow, and they just say forget it. And they die off. The idea, I'm trying to teach a sustainable way of farming.
Which is great.
And
Yes.
one of those things is, not using gas as much as
That's
possible.
right. Yeah.
And then there's other things, as an education center, there's other things I've done here on this site
Yes.
that I wouldn't do on any others.
Yes.
Well, perhaps one thing. It takes a lot of time though. Where this sage is, those purple flowers there,
Yes.
that whole area is actually, I trenched it out
Okay.
to about 2 feet wide.
Okay.
And then I filled it with logs and rotting debris that would hold moisture.
Okay.
And so every time it rains or when I water, that just soaks up the water and it holds it.
Oh, good.
So it allows me to, we had a drought a couple of years ago.
Yes.
This sage was unbelievable. It
Yeah.
was huge. And it's because of, in that spring, we had a huge downpour for a long time.
Okay.
Over the course of a couple of weeks, we got a lot of rain.
Yes.
So it literally was wet right through till like August.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's
and,
awesome.
And then there's a bed over on the other side that I've done that with. So
Yeah.
I'd like to eventually come right across and do that with all of the beds.
Yeah.
But it's a laborsome process.
It is. It is.
So that's one of the sustainable things that I do.
Okay.
And then the type of gardening that I do obviously is very sustainable. But another thing that I've been doing is I'm always trying to remediate the soil through natural ways. A lot of people have said, oh, this is almost like a micro farm. You're only growing a few things and you're growing a lot of it.
You're producing a lot.
Well, but if you step outside the box and get past what the camera's focused on, there is vegetation. There's a huge amount of things growing around here.
Right.
That all work in sync. The trees bring bugs that go, wow, look at this is cool, and they come down here and so yeah, it was explained to me because my market gardens they'll be like 4 beds of mesclun mix and 3 beds of radish, and people
Yeah.
are like, you're just growing a monocrop. And it's like, yeah, in this bed, but look around, there's grasses, there's a rose bush over there, there's all sorts of stuff right here.
It interplays.
And then look
Yeah.
around, pull off the blinders. It's
Yeah.
I'm in the middle of vegetation, really.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a very intensive way of gardening, very sustainable. In the area, these are black walnut trees, which
Oh,
are very
yes.
medicinal and very good for you.
Yes.
Except they will, and I can show you examples of it.
Yeah.
They will pull all of the moisture out of the soil,
Okay.
and they will pull all of the nutrients out of the soil.
Oh,
So-
I've read that. Yes.
So everything I grow on this side it suffers, and it's only greens. So
Okay.
those first 2 beds, that's all I can do.
Yeah.
There's a route that runs through here, and there's a route that runs through here.
Okay.
But if you come up here and take a look, this
Okay.
is also a black walnut tree.
Okay.
And, well, this isn't a great example, but as the day goes on, you will see a space. At first I thought it was wind. It's like, wow, I've got wind ripping through there.
Okay.
But it's actually the roots of this tree.
Yeah.
You can see it. It spreads. There's a section from about those markers to about here.
Okay.
And it's just dry. What I've done to remediate that, hopefully what will remediate it, is this from here down to the end, this aisleway.
Yeah.
I've trenched out a foot deep, and I've put black morel mushroom in there, mushroom
Oh.
spawn. So next year I will get black morel mushrooms.
Okay.
This works as a weed suppressant in the aisleway,
Oh my gosh.
and hopefully the mushrooms will work to remediate and pull in the nutrients that are
Okay.
needed for the area.
Okay.
And sort of, I'm guessing, I'm hoping that they will sort of feed the tree and feed the garden as well. Just the whole purpose of mushrooms, I think, and I'm explaining it in pretty layman terms.
Absolutely.
is to just fix the soil. My plans are to have a crazy roadside stand going on here every Saturday.
Good for you.
I've sort of done a little survey amongst the community, and they would like to see something in the eat. Like I say, I've got an executive chef here. He prepares amazing soups and all sorts of little dishes that can enhance what's on the stand. We've already, I've got a lot of different herbs, and he's going to create vinaigrettes too.
Nice.
And we'll create little salad bowls to go in.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's going to be, I don't even know what it's going to be. It's going to be huge. It's going to be a lot. All through here, I'm sort of naturalizing. There's raspberries that are, they're very medicinal. And then again, with Chef Dave from Crave Catering, we can make sorbets and vinaigrettes with the raspberries that normally I just harvest them, put them in a quart basket, and sell them.
Yeah.
And then, so things like the dill. This doesn't grow to be your pickling dill. It's a gourmet dill that gets about 8 inches tall and is harvested. It's a very nice green, has a lovely flavor to it, a beautiful scent.
Good.
And the chefs love it. Still have a lot of, I just had a caterer here last week. Actually, he's going to, Kaleidoscope Catering out of Sterling.
Yeah.
He makes amazing artisan breads, which are going to be one of the things available on the stand. So you see those hoops there?
Yes.
It's that's only netting to keep away from the birds, but I practice season extension farming as well. So with those hoops, I put plastic over it, a sheet of plastic, and it creates like a mini greenhouse.
Yes, it does.
So in months like April, end of March, early April, mid-April, I can put trays like that underneath them, and they'll germinate and grow, as opposed to growing them under a light and them stretching and not doing well. And I didn't have a greenhouse at the time either. So I'd had them underneath and everything was going great, and then we got just the one day of crazy hot weather, and within an hour I had a whole succession, my whole first planting burnt off. Just everything burnt off. So I scrambled. I got a hold of some growers that I know and said, have you got anything you can help me out with? And
That's
they're like,
right.
oh yeah, we've got extras of this and that.
Perfect.
So that was good. This, people were like, oh, look at all the weeds you got growing. This is actually stinging nettle. And Sharon, as an example, at this time of year, the poplar tree releases a lot of pollen, and that's what all the big white things are you see floating in the air. She's very allergic to that. So when she got here this morning, we boiled some smaller shoots. And it doesn't even really matter if you're just making a tea. If you want to eat it, though, the smaller ones are preferred. But I just went in and I pulled some out. I cut it up and boiled it in a pot of water, brought it into a steep, and then poured it in a glass, and she drank it down. And stinging nettle is like allergy killer. It just all sorts of allergies. It's incredible. And for you and I, it's like, well, that's a weed, but there wasn't pharmacies forever.
That's right.
There was this.
There's purpose to every plant.
Yeah, and there is.
So you grew up gardening then, right?
Well, I grew up, my family's farm was Shelter Valley Farms over in the county. I grew up sort of in a farming setting. I grew up around plants, which was what brought me to this, because I would spend hours in the greenhouse with my grandmother just doing little tasks that she had me doing. And the knowledge that she gave me was crazy, that I'm amazed I retained. I've forgotten a lot of what she said.
But nevertheless,
it was just that way of working with a child, keeping me entertained, keeping me task oriented, and I'm learning at the same time. And like literally, I was in diapers pulling brown leaves off of geraniums. And any question I had, there was an answer for it. So that really lasted as far as what I'm doing now. I'm working with kids.
Yes.
Kids are sponges, and they will take it all in. And you know, I don't expect every kid to go off and grow food for the world. And you know, as this becomes an education center, people say, well, then you'll be done with it. And no, it's a kid comes down here, works in the garden in 2021, and then in 2035, that kid is brought down here by their kid who wants to show them something they've done.
That's right.
So yeah, that's what this place is about, is
awesome.
to create that kind of a lasting thing for the boarder here, who he would bring his young lad here every weekend, and they decided they were going to make a nice roast beef dinner, and I said, well, do you want some carrots and different vegetables? And carrots, yeah, I want carrots.
Yeah.
So we're walking out, and he literally was walking by the greenery down the aisle, right? And I said, whoa, 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 where are you going? And he's looking around. And I don't know whether he's looking for a bag of orange things or what, but I said, just grab that right down at the bottom and pull one out. And I didn't do it myself. I let him do it.
Yeah.
And he pulled a carrot out, and he screamed at the top of his lungs. He said, that's a carrot. Because he had no idea that they
it was a root
like
vegetable.
They're in the grocery store in a bag or in a bunch.
That's right.
And then it was like, he's just pulling carrots.
Yeah, that's...
amount to anything, but one day he'll be sitting there thinking and going, hey, yeah, I used to do that, or I could do that.
Well,
it's planting the seed, I guess.
Yeah, and during this pandemic, it's the whole, like, that's exactly what it's about. Like, we don't know, food production wise, how long it's going to last in the grocery store. So
yeah, well, I have friends, mentors who have been doing this for years, and they have, up until this year, had a market garden set up like I'm doing, and on a larger scale, and they have stopped that, and 3 of them have gotten together and moved to a much smaller community and have started overwintering vegetables they can store, and they're not only growing enough for themselves, but to provide for the community they're in as well. These are decades old farmers that are going, I need to make sure I'm set up for the winter.
And all of a sudden, you're a person of value because you have that knowledge.
So they're hoping, you know, hey, if we look out for the community, they're going to help us in case things go south, kind of deal. Which, it's scary what could really happen. And other countries are doing things to support farmers and get our food going and get food back on the tables. And it doesn't seem that way in Canada. They're taxing at one of the most important times they throw a carbon tax on, right during planting. Farmers are having a struggle as it is, and then now they're nailed with more tax. Like, come on. It's like they're just making it very difficult to produce food, and it's scary where that could leave us in only a few months. Like, just we're not talking years down the road. This is immediate. Most of the food we eat are annuals. They're produced in a year and harvested
in a short growing season for where we live.
And if we haven't got a supply in the winter, I'm sure there'll be options out there, but they may not necessarily be the ones we want. A lot of what's in here is edible. The caterers will come and a lot of the times the caterers just harvest. They say, I need this many flowers. I say, go get them. You can put the smaller leaves in a salad if you prepare them properly. A strong cucumber flavor of the flowers. So the whole part of the plant is edible. And it's those types of things that the caterers like, because they can not just use it as for looks. It's actually part of the meal. I built a nursery. I would start all of my seedlings under lights, fluorescent lights, and they stretch. They just get really long, and then they'll fall over. And it's very unmanageable to transplant them. So I had to build this just because I couldn't afford to keep losing trays of vegetables. I've created the nursery, which has just been huge. It's helped me, it's jumped me way basically back on track.
Yes.
And I bring them to 3 weeks in here, then they go out here for a month,
Okay.
or for a week, I mean,
Okay.
and then they get transplanted into the grounds. Things like turnips, like
Yeah.
you saw out front, they have to be covered with a netting.
Okay.
Because there's a worm that will, well, it's actually a moth that will lay eggs in the soil.
Okay.
That will then, the worms will go around and leave marks, brown marks all around the turnip. Yeah, it's not very pleasant. It's hard to sell it that way. And then this is arugula,
Yes.
which also in the front I have arugula, and it's covered because of the flea beetle. That's the thing that puts the little holes in all your greens.
Oh.
So now not any netting works. There's a certain type of netting that I have to have. It's the weave doesn't allow them to get in.
Okay.
So yeah, there's certain vegetables that I have to do a little bit extra to.
Yes.
Otherwise it's just not worth growing it at all. Yeah, we were talking about equipment.
Yep.
So I don't use a rototiller. The first year I did, and then I sold it
Okay.
because I met up with other farmers who just said, you know, that we're building soil as much as we're growing vegetables.
Yeah.
So the Broadford, that goes into every one of my beds. I work it up, and then I have a wheelie hoe that's somewhere, and I sort of tilt it. I rake it over with a landscape rake, and so there's a quick prep to the bed, but because of the continuous planting and replanting, it becomes very little in bed prep. It's like 5 minutes and I've got the bed prep that I'm ready to plant more stuff.
Wow.
I've started collecting seed this year only because I've had a real struggle with, so with my microgreens, I order seed by the kilogram.
Okay.
A seed package, I'd need like 10 of them to do a container of microgreens. And it's been very difficult for some reason for myself and every farmer to buy bulk seed. And so yeah, collecting seed is becoming almost a necessity.
Yeah.
So I've been doing that here and there, not with everything, but with select things. The one other thing I wanted to show you that anybody can do this on a balcony anywhere.
Okay.
Because obviously that's a concern for a lot of people is
That's right.
I can't grow food. So on a balcony, you could take a container,
Yes.
like a container that big, right? These are cherry tomatoes. You're limited to, you have to use indeterminate. So determinate is a bush tomato. You can determine when you're going to get the bulk of your harvest.
Okay.
Indeterminate are cherry tomatoes because they will give you tomatoes all summer long.
Okay.
And actually, when we go out to a nursery and we buy a tomato plant, we're never seeing maturity of that tomato because the season isn't long enough here.
That's right.
To do it. I start my tomatoes in like March, late March, early April, and I grow them for a couple of months. These are a foot in the ground.
Yes.
Okay, and they were massive. They were like this big when I put them in the ground.
Okay.
And they went down a foot.
Wow.
So, and what that does is it creates a very strong root mass.
Yes.
And a lot of energy for it to grow.
Okay.
But what I wanted to show and why anybody can do this.
Okay.
If you can get a pot and you plant your tomato in it, and you can attach a rope to the ceiling of your balcony.
Wow.
This is called hard pruning.
Okay.
And what it will do is, so every leaf set, or flowering set, every flowering set that I get, everything below that, I just pull it off. I was out here yesterday doing it, so I can't really. Actually, here we've got a flower set here.
Okay.
So this leaf, right now, the purpose of the leaf is to draw in sun and energy from the sun and create sugars. but I have a huge amount of foliage up top.
Yeah.
So right now, this is not only collecting energy, but it's using energy.
Okay.
Okay, so by getting rid of this,
Yeah.
now it's brought all of the energy up into here,
Okay.
and also energy into the production of the fruit.
Oh, wow.
So I continue these up, and I just keep twining them around, and they literally, this used to be, with those two ends,
Yeah.
it used to be 17 feet.
Okay.
And I had 3 rows of tomatoes, so I had like 42 tomato
Oh my
plants.
gosh.
And it was literally, you could walk in here and stand in the shade. They went right to the peak. I had a roof of tomatoes
Oh
hanging
my
down.
gosh.
Because these will grow like 12 feet, cherry tomatoes,
Oh my gosh.
if you string them up. So this is a way, and the reason you want to hard prune and deadhead is because you don't want it unmanageable. You want it, and this will produce a lot. It will
Yeah.
just continually grow and grow and produce more and more and more.
Okay.
And the sets will get bigger as the plant get, like literally it's just a mass of tomato. I've had picture, if you go onto the Facebook page and look
sure.
at the pictures, you'll see
Yeah.
a picture of it.
Yeah.
But this year I've decided to grow cucumbers, which I don't normally grow, but these are for the CSA,
Yeah.
and they will be growing in the same manner.
Oh, wow.
The only difference is these ropes aren't the ones I'm going to use. One of the cool things you can do
Yep.
with cucumbers
Yep.
is I'll string these up, but I'll have like 3 feet of slack.
Yeah.
That as I get up high enough and they reach the peak,
Yeah.
then I draw down the rope,
Yeah.
and I lean the plant forward, so the
Oh my
stalk,
gosh.
so this stalk actually lays across the ground, and
Okay.
the plant still continues to grow up.
Oh my
Because
gosh.
again, tomatoes, cucumbers, a lot of those plants we never see maturity because of our growing season.
Yeah.
It's too short. It's like a month and a half too short for a lot of those things.
Yeah.
So that's why you will see nurseries and farmers start their plants early. Sun and heat and water are major contributors to the growth of the plant, but every plant has a maturity date.
That's
And
right.
It's either going to come to maturity, you harvest it out, or you try and create an environment that will allow you to reach maturity.
Yes.
And so with the tomatoes and the cucumbers, I will cover them with plastic.
Yep.
And that will work as a type of season extension a little bit longer.
Yep.
People get frustrated and just immediately think, I can't do it. Set up a table, get above the balcony railing, and
Yeah.
you've got full daylight all the time, every time.
Exactly.
And you can do it. You can do
Yeah.
it. During the summer, we get enough northern exposure for the average plant to get enough required sunlight.
Okay, good.
It
Good
doesn't
to
have
know.
to be full-on direct sun.
Yeah. Exactly.
Beautiful southeast sun all day long. It doesn't have to be that way.
That's right.
So.
Good.
So the reason for the beans, which the squirrels have had a heyday with, there was 2 rows of beans
Oh dear.
in each bed. I'm only going to harvest these once. I'm going to let them grow, mature to when they're starting to produce the beans.
Yeah.
And when there's a good cluster of beans, we're going to pull the whole plant out of the ground,
Okay.
harvest the beans, they go into the CSA.
Yep.
And my whole purpose of the beans, more than the harvest, is they're a nitrogen fixer.
Yes.
They will add huge
Yes.
amounts of nitrogen back into the space for me.
Absolutely.
So it's just sort of like a preemptive soil amendment
Yeah.
by putting the beans in. And you'll hear the term cover crop, and farmers at the end of the season will put oats or pea or something down to just create a green manure in the winter
Yes.
or in the spring. So much the same, other than it's not designed to, in the spring I'm going to do this, but this is also, I will periodically in different beds, depending on what's been in there the last few successions,
Yeah.
I'll just do a row of beans and add
Perfect.
nitrogen back into the soil.
Absolutely.
Alongside this goji berry,
Mm-hmm.
going back to companion planting, I've got asparagus growing in here because one
Oh
of
my
the
gosh.
best plants, they repel pests for each other.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I've got a whole row of asparagus. You can see it all growing.
Oh,
through
yes.
here.
Okay.
So I've got to get in here and weed this.
Yeah.
And then I've got garlic, which I planted because I thought, okay, these are asparagus roots. I'm not going to see anything till next year, but they can be detrimental to each other.
Yeah.
They don't seem to be, because that asparagus shouldn't even have come up yet.
Yeah.
So this is all garlic, and it's starting to get the garlic scapes.
Okay.
And this is all garlic, and then the lemons are all taken over in here.
Wow.
So yeah, this garlic will come out in July, and then I'll replant the beds, and yeah, it's just a continuous cycle. Of
Yeah.
planting and harvesting and planting and harvesting.
Wow.
So this is basically how my greens will grow when I grow them intensively, like the
Okay.
baby kale that I was
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah.
They would be in a cluster like that. And then over there I've got some leeks planted, and
Yeah.
the way I do my leeks is I put a deep hole. My leeks, when they went in the ground, were probably that long,
Wow.
and they were just very thin, looked like a green onion.
Yeah.
But I put a cluster of 2 and 3 into the hole,
Yeah.
and then I just lightly water it as though it would be a rain, and dirt starts to fall down in the hole.
Okay.
And the hole will eventually fill up with the soil,
Okay.
and the cluster will just sort of push the dirt aside and grow in their own space.
Wow.
But by having them so deep, that whole area will be white, which is the part that we eat
Yes.
on the leek.
Yes.
A lot of people, they'll put the leek in, and they'll just, it's that deep, and they got a little great big white piece, and they're like, well, that's not a leek. But this way it will keep a nice narrow leek that's white, most of it. And that was learned by, there's a couple of books that are basically my Bible. One is The Market Gardener by Jean-Martin Fortier. He's a market gardener in Quebec.
Yeah.
It just sort of right around the East Shores, I believe, Eastern
Okay.
Townships.
Yeah.
Right on the border of Vermont. And he had an acre and a half, and he produces enough food to feed 250 CSAs
Wow.
a year. And then he goes to 3 markets in one in Montreal and 2 in surrounding areas.
Yeah.
And he generates a 6-figure income on an acre and a half. And then someone who has become a very good friend and a huge mentor is Curtis Stone, who does what I do in an urban setting.
Yeah.
He does this, and
good.
it's only been through literally months and months of daily online talking to each other with all of my crazy questions that he was glad to answer, because during the winter he plays board games with his buddies and does stuff, and he's just answering my questions, and we become very good friends.
Good.
He's out in Kelowna. He's actually one of the farmers, the group of 3 who have gotten together, and they're creating this farm for winter product.
That's really cool.
But yeah, I forget where I was going with that. Those 2 guys have had a huge impact on what I do.
Yeah.
And it is literally, message them and they get back to me within the hour.
Oh my gosh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's insane, and yeah, it's just a lot of fun. Nothing I've done I've invented. It's all been done, and they explained it to me in that if you like your grandma's cake or your grandma's pie and you want to make it, you follow the instructions to
That's
get
right.
grandma's pie. If you change anything, it's not grandma's pie anymore.
That's
It's
right.
not going to taste the same. You're not going to get the result you want. Follow our recipe. We've proven it over and over and over again.
It's amazing.
And in fact, Jean Martin, he was approached by a gentleman in Quebec, a very wealthy gentleman, and said, I want to do what you've done here on your acre and a half and 10 times it.
Oh,
So they
wow.
have a huge experimental farm.
Yeah.
It's amazing the setup because he's right in the middle. A lot of people don't realize we have a massive lettuce production area in Quebec. And
Okay.
he's right in the middle of it. This experimental
Wow.
farm is right in the middle of it. There's no machinery. They use windbreaks and different plants to bring in different beneficial insects, and
Wow.
everything is as it would have been before the invention of machinery.
Absolutely.
And again, well, not everything. The greenhouses are pretty modernized and using technology, but only to produce longer and better.
Yes.
It's sort of manipulating the environment, but to bring it to where, you know, you get the full potential of what the plant can produce.
Awesome.
So, but more or less, it's like there's no tractors, there's no rototillers, there's none of that stuff. It's,
Yeah.
you know, on the phone you can Wi-Fi this to make the water go on in the greenhouse, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm not there yet. I've got little timers that hook up to my water, and then they
Yeah.
shoot water out at a certain time.
Oh,
But,
good.
yeah, these guys have been a huge help in what I do. And people, when I first started doing it, they're like, wow, what an incredible concept. And it's like, this has been going on forever. And in fact, what I do is actually a 14th century style of French farming. They've been doing this since like
I was looking at
14th
that.
and
The French,
1500s.
French intensive.
Very intensive farming. And this
Yeah.
is it. This is a model of French intensive farming.
That's all.